and I have to admit, since we set up the platform, and 2 years ago, I suppose, we started building this office in central Wellington and Manners Street. And this is effectively my hometown, though I was born in Christchurch. I've spent the vast majority of my life here and would consider myself a real Wellingtonian. And I don't know I'm proud of it anymore. Last night I was having a very nice dinner to celebrate the coming together of my son's family for his graduation today. He'll march through the streets of Wellington in the Harry Potter parade with his mates and get his double degree in law and English, or law and arts. His arts degree is in history and philosophy, and the law degree is in law, obviously. But we were talking last night with some outlaws, in-laws, people I know from out of town about Wellington, and I said, this place is stuffed, and I suddenly realised how negative I felt about the city that I've lived in and loved for most of my life. And I don't think I am alone in worrying about the malaise of Wellington. The people from outside Wellington, it's great, you've got great cafes, and I went to a nice restaurant the other day. Well, if you can find one open. And then I read a piece from my mate Boyce from the Backbencher Tavern. And Boyce too believes this city may be, as John Key said, dying. Well, my question is why, and is there any way to turn it round? Boyce joins us now. G'day, mate, how are you?
Oh, pretty good, thanks, Sean, apart from living in a dying city.
Yeah, and now we've got this, what sounds like it could be an absolutely horrendous fire at this Backpackers in Newton.
That sounds really serious. I heard an interview on the radio about 5 a.m, and a resident said it was a death trap.
Oh, Jesus. That isn't good.
So, yeah, it's not looking good, and there is obvious problems with the building that were outlined where they have, lots of false alarms going off, and apparently smoke detectors did not go off on this time. So,
well, they're talking dozens of people missing, Boyce. Dozens.
Oh, my God, it's worse than what they thought at that time then.
Yeah. All right, well, we'll keep an eye on that. But meantime, Boyce, the general malaise of Wellington City, and I want to start by saying some positive things. I've had a look at that convention centre that's been built. It actually looks architecturally quite nice. It's raised that part of town. But for all of that, there are some other major problems in the city. What do you see them as? Well,
if we go back, it's 10 years since Kerry Prendergast provided true leadership and direction for the city that was conducive to business. So the real contraction from my end and the real problem is that business is being squeezed out of Wellington. No one in business puts up their hand to discuss this, but for obvious reasons around equity, okay? So everyone who's involved in Wellington at the moment who has a stake in it, their equity is at risk, and they know that. So they don't get a lot of representation. When you go out and you try and interview business owners, 9 out of 10 will not talk to the media, and the other 10% are guarded. So I'm giving you a perspective from a number of hats, but I'm not being guarded. And business, especially now under the new regime, is... We used to have Andy Foster, who sort of provided a bit of protection for us. Now it's all out assault. The centre-right councillors are doing their best to protect business and residents and our concerns and keep our lives and livelihoods going. But the stranglehold of the radical green rump has got control, and it's all the way through with the CEO.
Okay, so let's be specific, Boyce. What are the problems that businesses face?
Okay, well, let's run through them. First of all, we're still recovering from COVID. Yep. So we've had lockdowns. So we've got the general wider malaise. Yeah. And then we come into the specific one. Now, the biggest threat is the spearhead of the green policies, which is the cycleways. The cycleways act as a scythe. They cut off business and residents. If you can imagine Molesworth Street, which is an easy one to imagine, they are still putting a cycleway. It's now one lane because of construction. So we've only got one lane of traffic going up Molesworth Street. We now have a footpath and a cycleway, and they put in one way to enable this. They turned streets into one-way streets. They've relinquished on one, but not the others. And then you've got a supermarket whose volume of traffic is higher than the off-ramp, okay? And they don't even do the data on this.
I also noticed in Molesworth Street, all